Joining us now is Dr. Dennis Coronacion, Chairman of the UST Department of Political Science. Doc, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, good morning. Good morning to all the viewers.
Alright, Doc, simulan natin yung, priority bills ni President Marcos. So, what do you make of this?
Well, it's his initiative is laudable, but of course, we shouldn't get too optimistic about these proposed bills, since we do expect, especially with regard to the proposed anti-dynasty bill, we do expect that there's going to be a lot of excuses on the part of our lawmakers to delay it, or if not to at least kill the bill, and we're also expecting that, given the reduced political capital of the president, I think this is going to face a very tough time in Congress.
But what do you make of the timing of his announcement, Prof?
Well, I think it fits well within the president's anti-corruption initiative, and it also, I suppose, it seeks to sustain the momentum that has been gained by the anti-corruption investigation. So pasok siya dun, no? And kaya nga lang, problema lang dito is, I think, within this month, I think on December 15, Congress is going to have a recess. So hindi natin alam, baka mamaya pagbalik ng magre-resume yung trabaho yung Kongreso, if the urgency, if ever there is, will still be there.
But do you think, Doc, this is a move by Malacanang or the President also to temper yung anger ng public, and also number two, yung looming, yung nakalagay sa taas ng presidente na may issue siya sa tax, tapos nananawagan siya ng isoli yung pera ng taong bayan. So, a lot of these questions are circulating na kasi.
Ano ito, no? Kumbaga man, this is the president's response to everything that's related to the corruption issue. Tawag dito, yun na nga, I suppose this is his answer to the people's call for transparency and accountability. Kumbaga man, it's an additional ingredient, a component to that initiative of the president.
But do you think it's, dugtong lang na, but do you think it's enough? Kasi nag-usap tayo last time, Doc, parang pinag-uusapan natin, let's see until Feb, no? Pag naubos na yung bonus, wala ng pera ang tao, wala pang resolution ng mga corruption drives, baka ito magiging start ng pagbaba pa ng numero ng presidente.
Ayun na nga ho, ito mga nakaraang, I think yung latest survey by WR Numero,
Yeah.
Lumabas that the president has, yung numbers niya, have gone down. So it might, these numbers might still go down in the coming months, kasi sa ngayon, medyo masaya pa yung mga tao kasi Christmas season.
Yes.
By the time na nag-set in na naman yung reality, wala na naman tayong pera, ubos na yung ating 13-month pay and bonus, maisip na naman nila yung katiwalian na ginawa ng ating mga public officials. So it's possible that his survey numbers might still go down. Oo. And yung kanyang initiative is not enough. In fact, I do agree with the proposal, with the comment of with Congressman Leila De Lima, na dapat sana, if the president would really like to show his sincerity in pursuing itong or in fulfilling the people's clamor for transparency and accountability, dapat sana ay sinertify niya as urgent itong mga bills na to, particularly the anti-dynasty bill. O kasi mo makikita, mame-measure kung talagang seryoso ang Pangulo. Kasi itong encouragement, lang to meaning to say, walang necessity. So, meaning the lawmakers may still reject or dilly-dally o kaya Yun, hindi na nila kumbaga man, hindi nila ipasa itong kahing
Right.
anti-dynasty bill.
It's good that you pointed that out, kasi I was gonna ask you that as well, kung pagbabasihan yung mga terminologies, di ba,
Yeah.
ng pagpapasa ng batas. Itong sinabi ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos, prioritization versus certifying it as urgent, ay madalawa yung magkaiba, no, na terminolohiya. But why do you think yun ang kanyang sinabi kahapon? Why do you think, bakit hindi siya nagsabi na i-certify to as urgent?
Well, maaring marami siyang kinokonsidera, no? Maaring tinitingnan niya yung sinasalang-alang niya yung dynamics within Congress. Considering na we all know for a fact that majority of the members of both houses belong to political dynasties. So maaring iniisip niya yon na there might be the anti-dynasty bill will encounter strong opposition from the members of both houses. Kaya lang siya, encourage or urge, yun ang kanyang wording, as opposed to hambawa yung certifying the bill as urgent, meaning to say it's necessary, and as a consequence, I think the Constitution provides na diretso na agad sa third reading. Oo, magbobotohan na sa plenaryo. Kung encourage naman kasi magkakaroon pa ng debate yan, gaya nga nung sa interview ni Senate President Tito Soto, sabi niya, i-define pa kung ano meaning ng political dynasty.
Yes.
And remember, if we go back to history, yung mga past proposals, doon rin nag-bog down, doon na stuck. Hindi na nagkasundo ang members ng Congress kung anong proper definition of a political dynasty.
Yeah.
Well, on
Oh,
the
go ahead.
side of President Bongbong Marcos pa rin, why do you think naman din na, of course, a lot of people are saying, kung pagbabasihan talaga by the book yung definition ng dynasty, ay kinabibilangan si Pangulong Bongbong Marcos ng political dynasty. And why do you think all of a sudden meron siyang ngayong ganito na bill na dapat i-prioritize?
Well, I suppose this is his response to the people's clamor for accountability and transparency. Kasi alalahanin natin siya nag-umpisa ng issue na to, no? Siya nag-expose nito na may ganyan nangyayari sa national budget natin nung itong 2025, and that particularly nakulimbat ng ating mga public officials and the PWH executives yung malaking portion ng budget for the flood control projects. Yan ang expose ng ghost project. So, meron siyang ganung klaseng panawagan, anti-corruption drive na nag-umpisa doon sa kanyang panawagan sa SONA niya na mahiya naman kayo. So, all these things, yung kanyang mga itong proposed measures na to, political reforms, they all fit into the president's narrative na mahiya naman kayo.
Pero don't you think, Doc, na siguro, kasi may nagsasabi parang he's not sincere because if he was, he would certify it. So parang he's playing into the hearts of the people by saying, ito ang gusto ko, pero ayaw rin niya banggain yung mga kaalyado niya and mga ibang powerful people in politics by not certifying it because alam niya, we all mentioned also sa Ilocos pa lang, ang dami niyang kamag-anak doon. Tapos yung mga kaalyado niya, ang dami rin kamag-anak. So ayaw niya rin galitin. So parang naglalaro siya.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point, yung ganyang observation na baka nilalaro niya lang yung kagustuhan ng mga tao at saka yung kinakailangan niya pa rin yung suporta ng kanyang mga kaalyado sa Kongreso. Kumbaga man binabalanse niya, no? And this also I think lends credence to the analysis na baka yung umpisa ang gusto talaga ng Pangulo dito ay hindi talaga magkaroon ng reforma kung hindi ginamit niya yung issue na to upang parusahan yung mga dati niyang kaalyado. So midterm election pa lang ay nagpapakita na ng mga senyales na pumapanig na doon sa kalaban.
That's right.
Halimbawa, si former Senate President Jesus Escudero pumapanig na noon kay Vice President Sara Duterte, obvious naman noong impeachment trial. Tapos yung mga kaalyado niya nun sa yung Senate slate niya, yung ilan doon ay bumaligtad na tulad ng mga Villars at nakikitahan rin natin yan noon sa mga Tulfo. So I think it was his way of controlling his allies and former allies. And for his former allies, parang it came as a form of punishment. Ang problema, hindi niya alam na lalala. At so hindi niya alam kung paano matatapos. And right now, what he's doing is that, kumbaga man, he's doing damage control or troubleshooting.
Pero tugtog ko lang doon, kasi buti nabanggit mo, Doc, about yung midterm election. We all know, January will mark officially yung, yung lame duck stage ng presidente leading up to 2028. And so all his moves now will be to uplift the stock value in the hopes na yung mga in-endorse niya, na mga, kahit sabihin mo hindi na yung presidente endorse, yung mga senators na i-endorse niya, ay manalo. So he could still enjoy some comfort or control over the houses. So tingin mo, Doc, we'll see more of mga ganitong ginagawa ng presidente next year?
Yes, I think so. I think yung mga gagawin niya in the future, may kinalaman sa yung kanyang pushback doon sa phenomenon na na lame duck president or lame duck presidency. Nagumpisa na nga yun nung bago pa lang ng eleksyon at saka nung matapos ng eleksyon. So he's really trying to regain control of his government, of his political group, vis-a-vis of course the then perceived dominance of the group of Vice President Sara Duterte. So mananatili yung in fact yung even early masasabi na natin na yung kanyang presidency, yung kanyang term is marked by by the struggle for power between the two biggest political groups. Yung grupo ni presidente at saka yung grupo ni vice president.
Yes.
Mula doon sa magkabati sila hanggang siguro sa pagbaba ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos. Ganun pa rin ang pinag-uusapan yung away na nila.
Well, there are a lot of observations naman po talaga, based on how the president is presenting his administration stance on different issues. One of which also, ito pinag-uusapan natin. And of course, yung isa pang mainit na usapin yung ICI. Over the couple of days, pinag-uusapan na baka mag-wrap up na ang ICI, talagang ombudsman na lang ang mag-imbestiga tungkol dito sa mga flood control projects na ito. And you have Congresswoman Laila De Lima pushing for the bill nga na para mabigyan ng more power ng ICI sa Congress. And ang sa Senate naman yung Independent People's Commission. Pero dito sa before that, narinig natin sinasabi ni Yusek Castro na medyo titignan natin, baka medyo redundant na yung ginagawa ng ICI, o kung bibigyan pa sila ng enough power, etc. So para nagkakaroon kasi ng iba-ibang tono. And right now, by saying na i-prioritize itong 4 na bill na ito, kasama nga yung Independent People's Commission, do you think matitigil na yung usapin na talagang parang yung ginawa mong ICI, parang lip service lang?
Well, actually, isang malaking question mark po yung yung existence ng ICI, even if there's going to be legislation expanding the powers and institutionalizing itong ICI. Kasi maraming katanungan diyan una yung sinabi niyo nga redundancy. Even if merong batas na ginagawang permanente yan at ini-institutionalize, hindi ba duplication ng function ng ombudsman? So aren't we adding another layer of office that has the same function as the ombudsman? So in the process, hindi ba nade-delay lamang yung dapat sanang pagsasampa ng kaso sa mga involved na individuals and public officials? Instead of letting it go through ICI, bakit hindi lang idiretso sa ombudsman para makasave ng time? Di ba? Ngayon, if it's going to be a permanent institution in the government, maganda sana ang hangarin on the other hand. Kasi ang point naman yan is that itong na-discover na corruption with regard to the infrastructure is just a tip of the iceberg. At malamang-lamang sa buong Pilipinas, lahat ng mga infrastructure projects ay may mauungkat na anomalya. So yun ang rationale behind, or that's the logic behind the idea of making it a permanent institution. So yun ang dilemma hindi natin masagot until now. Kung relevant ba yan, dapat ba pagpatuloy o dapat buwagin na.
Well, of course, as a political analyst, we would like to know also your year-end observation, diba? Or analysis dito sa nagiging komunikasyon ng admin pagdating sa mga issues dito sa Pilipinas.
Again, itong going back to my previous point, itong year na to is just like the previous years, marked by the relationship of the president with the vice president at saka yung mga allies nila, yung kanilang mga supporters. This time, siguro if there's a highlight dito sa ano na to, we saw how the vice president has shown her political clout and political influence intact pa rin pala, as shown in the midterm elections. And we have also seen how the president has fought back against the resurgence of the vice president. So I think yung ganung tema ng politika natin mananatili hanggang 2028. There's going to be more of this in the coming years.
Ay nako, humaba ang para naging sarsuela. Pero regards to that, in relation to that, Doc, when President Marcos announced his candidacy for presidency at that time, nakita natin ang platform niya, as supported also by the Dutertes at that time, is to restore yung pangalan ng mga Marcos. In other words, to reclaim or attempt to rewrite history with the narrative that number one, golden era yung panahon ni Ferdinand Marcos Sr. And he had when he won the presidency, he had several failed attempts at reviving the legacy. Yung Maharlika, hindi masyadong nag-take off, yung Nutriban na kinuha ata ni Senator Amy, yung Love Bus kinuha ata ni Senator Amy. So parang sabi nila, ang daming failed attempts to rebuild the legacy. Now, yung tail end ngayon, as predicted by a lot of the pinks, hindi, corrupt yan eh. Diba? Corrupt yung history niyan. Ngayon, corruption is at an all-time high. So, do you think there is enough time given na may Duterte ng kaaway to reclaim yung legacy ng mga Marcos? And what does he have to do to get the middle ground, the middle forces on his side?
So, kumbaga man, if we're going to look at the long history of our country, siguro yung earliest going back to the time of the president's father. Tama kayo, ang highlight nung yan sa mga highlights nung presidency ni Marcos Sr. was corruption. Aside from martial law and the human rights abuses, yung corruption. In fact, merong isang scholar na sinabi ito ay kleptocracy, yung kanyang rehimen. Then fast forward to the present time, yung naman anak niyang presidente, pa rin, the government is still marred with corruption. Ganun pa rin ang issue. Pero this time, although, siguro hindi naman, nag-agree naman tayo na lahat sila ay sangkot dyan, lahat ng mga public officials. But this time, the son has taken a different role. Hindi na siya yung, hindi na siya yung perpetrator ng corruption, kundi siya ay kumagaman hero ng anti-corruption drive. Now, I just don't know if the Filipino people are going to accept this new role of the president. Of course, vis-a-vis dun sa family legacy nila,
Yeah.
Pero this is something that the president can work on and could pursue as a new legacy of the Marcos family. Oo. So, and by doing that, I think magkakaroon naman ng kakampi ang ating Pangulo. Like yung simbahan, sabi nyo nga, kakamping, yung mga dilawan, at saka yung civil society groups. And we have seen that noong nakita natin nung huling rally, noong protest rally, November 30, na kung saan humiwalay na ng rally itong mga civil society at saka itong Catholic Church. As opposed doon naman sa rally na ginanap ng mga pro-Duterte supporters. So magkaiba sila ng goals. Apparently yung goal ng is not to call for the resignation of the president. On the other hand, the goal of the pro-Duterte supporters is to call for the resignation of the president. So makikita yung suporta
Right.
ng broader section of the Philippine society.
Dugtungan ko lang yan. So do you see this, Doc, na yung parating going towards the 2028 election? I know it's a few years away, that the kakampings would rather, kasi let's face it, that's 15 million strong almost. Would they rather have a Marcos ally for a president, or do you see them allying with the Dutertes?
What do you mean po ba? Marcos allying with the Dutertes?
No,
or
no, the Pinks. The Pinks, sa tingin mo, saan mas papanig ang mga Pink? Sa Marcos o sa mga Duterte?
Well, the Pinks, yung alliance ng the Pinks and the Dutertes are very unlikely.
Okay.
Hindi yung mangyayari yan. Posible pa yung Marcos and the Pinks. At least yung sabihin na natin na yung nasa center ng political spectrum, that is Marcos, pwedeng kumampi sa left of center, moderate left. Pwede natin sabihin na gano'n. That's even more possible compared to the...
Kumbaga, Doc, parang si Lenny at si PBBM magkaroon ng isang chosen one.
Pwede ho yun. I think yun ang trajectory, yun ang inaasahan na trajectory ng natin, leading up to the elections. Pero it's still a long way to go.
I know,
More than
oo.
2 years pa. Hindi
Wala-
natin alam kung may sisipot dyan na dark horse o...
Yun na nga.
Sino lang.
I was gonna ask you that, Prof, kasi nga, well, since you mentioned VP Sara na rin kanina, dahil nakikita natin kahit ano yung mga allegations that are being thrown against her, she still maintains a strong positivity rate, or trust rate by her supporters. At nakikita natin dito siguro ba, Prof, na dahil walang strong contender from the true opposition, that's why she's still there. Marami pa rin siyang suporta.
That's one of the factors po, no? Kasi ang isa pa sa mga factors is that among the prospective presidential ball, siya pa lang ang nagde-declare early on. Aside from Senator Ontiveros. So silang dalawa pa lang. And that partly explains why she leads in the surveys. Pangalawa, solid pa yung political base ng mga Dutertes, intact pa. As shown in the 2025 midterm elections. Kumbaga man, solid in the sense na yung Mindanao voting bloc, talagang suportado mga Duterte, solid pa rin sila. Pati yung ethno-linguistic, yung Visayan speaking people, majority are throwing their support to the Dutertes. At saka yung mga klase C and D, I think pro-Duterte rin sila.
Oo nga, Doc. Pero wag natin kalimutan, Doc, meron pa tayong Tulfo brand. Where do they fit in? Kasi they're not the Pink, they're not with the Dutertes, they're not with the Marcoses per se. May sarili silang brand. Paano to kakain sa narrative ng mga political bases?
Well, may sarili yung may sariling political base ang mga Tulfo. I think huge chunk of the supporters of the Tulfos are from the OFWs. Okay. So so far I think nakaalyansa sila sa sa administration, pero of course rin to nagka-calculate din ito ng kanilang ng susunod na nag-iisip ng susunod na galaw. Pero at the moment, mukhang problemado yung Tulfo brand kasi one of them is being accused of womanizing.
Yung issue, yeah. Oo.
Tipping, huge amount of money. Well, let's not go there. Pero before we let you go, I wanna ask you po regarding the budget, 2026 budget. Napakalaking usapin po ng ating budget noong 2025 because it was dubbed as the most corrupt budget in our history. Ngayon po, naipasa na sa Kongreso at ngayon po sa Senado itong budget at for the first time daw si Senator Risa Ontiveros voted yes on this. How do you feel about it? Especially magkakaroon po ng open buy camp.
Daw.
Oo, pero kasi sa Congress daw, sabi ni Congresswoman Laila De Lima, medyo yung proposal is left sitting in the committee level.
To stream or not to stream?
Oo, so how do you feel about it?
Well, I think compared to the 2025 budget, the 2026 budget is, sabihin natin, created with some amount of transparency involved. Masaya po ako dito, kasi at least yung mga na-scrutinize because of the vigilance of the people. as well as some of our lawmakers. Talagang hindi natulog, kung man hindi tinulugan yung proposed budget, at talagang in-scrutinize ng ating mga mambabatas, lalo na yung mga progressive lawmakers natin. So I think this one is acceptable compared to the previous budget.
You will see dun sa kanilang magiging open bycam. Maraming salamat po sa inyo, as always, sa inyong time and insights. Dr. Dennis Coronacion, Chairman of the UST Department of Political Science.
Pero nakakaano yung word na acceptable, no? Parang gano'n na lang tayo ngayon. Acceptable na yung budget, okay na yan.
Oo.
Pero
Well, tingnan natin,
dapat ang word is sana we have the, not perfect, but the proper budget.
Well, tingnan natin kung paano magko-consolidate itong BICAM na to, because in the Congress, nakita natin there are still unprogrammed funds allotted. Pero ang sinasabi naman ng Senate, even in the first few days ng kanilang deliberation, talagang wala daw silang ilalagay na unprogrammed
Unprogrammed
funds.
funds.
So we'll see.